Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into some more fascinating stories from the Bible?
Always.
Today we're in Genesis chapter 35,
Oh, yeah. This is,
and this passage is just packed with emotional highs and lows,
hmm,
family drama, and some really deep themes that I
yeah,
think are going to resonate with us even thousands of years later.
totally.
So to set the stage, Jacob is at a crossroads.
Okay.
He gets this message from God to return to Bethel,
Right.
a place that holds a lot of significance for him.
Huge significance, right?
Yeah.
Bethel is where Jacob had that dream of
Yes.
the ladder to heaven, where
Exactly.
he really felt that connection to the divine for the first time.
So going back is like a spiritual homecoming.
Yeah, like a reset.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
chance to reconnect with his faith. And God doesn't just say, hey, pop in for a visit. He tells Jacob to build an altar.
Right. It's much more intentional.
Yeah.
It's like he's supposed to actively renew his commitment.
It's a ritual,
Yeah.
a physical manifestation of that spiritual rededication.
And there's also the instruction to purify himself and his whole family,
Okay,
get rid of any foreign gods.
that's what I find really interesting
Ooh, yeah.
because it makes you think, are we really just talking about literal idols here?
Not really, no.
It feels so symbolic.
It is, very much so.
Like, what are our priorities?
Yeah,
Where are we spending our time and energy?
exactly. If you think about it in our modern context,
Mm-hmm.
those foreign gods could be anything that's become a distraction,
Right.
a misplaced priority in our lives.
The things we cling to
Yeah,
for comfort or for security,
even if they might not be good for us, ultimately.
or even harmful. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think this whole concept of spiritual spring cleaning is so relevant.
Yeah.
It's about decluttering.
Simplifying, choosing what influences us.
Okay, so Jacob and his family pack up,
Mhm.
ditch the metaphorical baggage,
Just rid of the junk.
make their way to Bethel.
Yeah.
He builds that altar,
Yeah.
and God appears.
But it's not just a, hey, welcome back. It's much more than that.
Much more.
God changes Jacob's name to Israel.
Whoa.
And we know in the ancient world,
Right.
names weren't just labels.
Right.
It was their identity.
Absolutely. Tied to their destiny, their purpose.
So it's like this total makeover.
Exactly.
Not just physically, but who he is at his core.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's not just about Jacob,
Right.
that new name, Israel. It's going to be carried by all his descendants,
Wow.
by a whole nation.
Talk about a legacy.
It's a powerful reminder that all our choices have ripple effects. Everything we do, how we live, impacts the world around us.
It impacts generations to come.
For sure.
It's easy to forget that
Oh, yeah.
in our fast-paced, individualistic culture.
But we're all part of something bigger.
Yeah.
This story reminds us that we're all part of a larger narrative.
Okay. So it seems like things are going pretty well for Jacob so far.
Yeah, he's on this spiritual high.
But this chapter throws in a curveball, and a really heartbreaking one.
It's rough.
While they're on this journey, Jacob's wife, Rachel,
Right.
dies, giving birth to their son, Benjamin.
Oh, it's so sad.
It's such a poignant moment.
You can just feel the weight of that loss.
And yet, even in the midst of this tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
life goes on.
Right.
He buries her,
Yeah.
and he sets up this pillar
Yeah.
to mark her grave.
To remember.
It's a powerful image of remembrance,
Yeah.
but it's also a reminder that even when life throws us the most devastating blows,
Right.
we find a way to
Yeah.
keep going.
We grieve.
We heal,
We honor the memory of those we've lost.
and we embrace the life we have left.
Absolutely. And this chapter doesn't stop there.
No, it does.
It gets even more complicated.
Yeah.
We find out that Reuben, Jacob's oldest son,
Okay.
does something that really disrupts the family.
Yep.
He sleeps with Bilhah,
Oh, wow.
who's one of Jacob's concubines.
It really highlights the complexity of these family relationships,
Even back then.
even in ancient times.
Yeah. Right. It really makes you think about responsibility, about consequences,
Yeah.
that deal with all that messiness.
It's like this ancient story is holding up a mirror
Mm-hmm.
to our own lives.
Yeah.
It's making us take a closer look at our own journeys.
Our choices, the legacy we're creating.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be digging into in the rest of this deep dive.
I'm excited.
How these timeless themes from Genesis 35 can offer some powerful insights
Yeah.
for navigating our modern lives.
Let's do it. Wow, so much happened in that first part of Jacob's story.
I know, right? Returning to Bethel, Rachel dying, Reuben's actions.
It's a lot to think about.
Definitely.
How does it all connect to our lives today?
I was just thinking that.
I mean, we're not building altars or dealing with concubines.
Right, exactly.
But these themes are still so relevant.
Totally. Faith, loss, family dynamics.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin to apply this to our modern lives?
Okay, well, let's start with that image of Jacob returning to Bethel. It was a place of deep spiritual meaning for him,
Yeah.
where he first encountered God. It
Right.
makes you think,
Yeah.
where's our Bethel?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What are those places or practices,
Mhm.
maybe even people that bring us back to our core,
Yeah,
that help us reconnect to what really matters?
it could be anything,
It could be anything.
like
Yeah.
spending time in nature,
Right.
or maybe reconnecting with a spiritual practice we've neglected.
Or even just taking some quiet time
Yeah.
to reflect, be still.
Okay, and remember how Jacob had to purify himself and his family
Oh, yeah.
before going to Bethel?
Before returning.
It's like we might need to do some decluttering too.
I like that. Yeah, spiritual decluttering.
What are those foreign gods we've allowed to take over?
Oh, that's good. The things that distract us,
Yeah.
drain our energy.
Pull us away from our values.
It's like taking a spiritual inventory, right?
Yeah. Are we prioritizing the things that bring us real joy?
Are we chasing after the wrong things?
It's so easy to lose sight of that.
Oh, it's so easy to get caught up in
Yeah.
the busyness of everything.
And sometimes letting go of those things,
Mm-hmm.
those foreign gods,
Those things we cling to.
can be so freeing.
The most liberating things.
It's like you're making space for something new.
Yeah. Something better.
And speaking of new beginnings,
Yes.
when God changes Jacob's name to Israel,
So powerful.
it's all about transformation, right?
Yeah, totally. Embracing change, stepping into a new identity.
Even if it's scary.
Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable.
It reminds me we're not static beings,
We're always evolving, growing,
shedding old layers, becoming new versions of ourselves.
and that means letting go of old patterns,
Yeah, limiting beliefs.
labels we put on ourselves.
Yeah, and I keep thinking about the legacy part.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just for ourselves, but
Yeah.
for future generations.
Jacob's name change, it was tied to a promise,
Right.
a legacy for his descendants.
For a whole nation.
Like our choices,
Our actions, what we value.
they all add to this bigger story.
It's pretty humbling when you think about it.
It is.
We have this power to shape the future.
But life isn't all about these grand legacies and transformations.
Definitely not.
This chapter also shows us
Yeah.
the fragility of life.
The reality of loss.
Rachel's death is a reminder.
It's a tough one.
Even in the midst of blessings, new beginnings,
Yeah.
we're still vulnerable.
Heartbreak. And the way Jacob mourns her,
Yes.
setting up that pillar on her grave.
It shows us how to honor those we've lost.
How to keep their memory alive.
And even though grief can be overwhelming,
It can be so heavy.
it teaches us resilience, too, to
Yeah.
heal and grow.
Even from sorrow,
We want to adapt.
we find new strength.
Okay, but then there's Reuben,
Oh, yeah.
throwing another wrench into things.
It's a reminder that even in families,
Yeah.
there can be conflict, betrayal.
Consequences.
His actions created a real rift. It's like
Yeah.
a cautionary tale about responsibility,
Integrity.
communication within families.
It's like this ancient story is saying, hey, families are messy.
They're complicated,
Sometimes they're painful.
but they're also where we learn about forgiveness,
Grace.
the power of love. This whole story, it's like a crash course
I know, right?
in being human.
Aren't the ups and downs.
Faith and loss and family.
It makes you wonder how they even functioned as a family back then.
Seriously. But I guess that's what makes it so relatable, right?
Totally. They weren't perfect.
Mm.
They didn't have it all figured out.
They were just like us,
Trying to figure out life.
dealing with all the same challenges.
So as we finish up our deep dive into Genesis 35, what's the one thing you hope people take away from all this
What's that nugget of wisdom?
that we can apply to our own lives?
I think for me, it's that even with all the chaos
Yeah.
life throws at us,
All the uncertainty.
we can still grow.
We can change.
We can be resilient.
Jacob went through so much in this chapter.
He did.
And he just kept going.
He never stopped learning.
And he kept evolving.
It's like he's showing us that even when we mess up
Yeah.
or we face a huge loss,
There's always a way forward.
we can learn from everything
We can grow from our pain.
and become the best versions of ourselves,
It's such an important message
especially today.
when we're constantly bombarded with these ideas
I know.
about being perfect.
Having it all together,
But this story tells us it's okay to not be perfect.
to be a work in progress.
It's like this ancient wisdom is saying,
That's it saying.
hey, you don't have to have it all figured out.
Just keep showing up.
Keep trying.
Keep learning.
Keep growing.
And that's where the real beauty lies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the journey itself.
So well said. And as we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
What's that?
We talked about finding our own Bethel
That special place.
that connects us to what matters.
So think about this.
What would your Bethel look like?
Where would it be?
Who would you be with?
What would you do to feel that sense of connection?
That renewal of spirit.
Take some time to reflect on that.
And until next time.
Keep diving deep.